chapter 2 of the Song of Solomon. So I'll tell you this: the love story continues because that's what this is, and you can look at this, you know, as it's written, and you can also look at this in an allegorical way. A lot of this, the whole Bible's pointing you to Jesus. Okay, so but this is a beautiful love story. If you've never read the Song of Solomon, I really hope you guys will enjoy this study. But here we go, verse 1. I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. So, as normal, we're going to unpack everything. I am the rose of Sharon. In her view of herself, it has remarkably changed since the first chapter. And in the first visits at the palace, she was really self-conscious and unsure about her appearance and her worth. Now she says, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. This is a line that commonly is attributed to the beloved and is applied to Jesus Christ, okay? The rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys, she describes herself as two flowers here. They're fairly common wildflowers in that part of the world. She regarded herself as a flower, so definitely having beauty, but as rather as plain. She didn't think she was all that special as compared to other people. The Septuagint translates the rose of Sharon as a flower of the field. The Septuagint, if you don't know what that is, it's a translation of the Hebrew Bible into the Greek language. The name Septuagint, if I'm even saying that right, comes from the Latin word for 70, like 70. The tradition is that 70 Jewish scholars were the translators behind the Septuagint. So if you didn't know what that was, now you know, and I probably mispronounced it. We do know that the rose of Sharon describes it's not a proper rose, if you will. I've got a rose of Sharon out in my front yard, but it's a flower found in the low coastal plain stretching from Mount Carmel to the northern part of Israel. The one we've got out here, it only blooms once. It's blooming right now. It only blooms one time a year. And the word translated rose here actually means to form bulbs, like bulbs. Some think it refers to a bulb-like fruit that's produced by a rose bush, the rose hips, hips. Sharon was a very beautiful place. That's where King David, his cattle were there. They were fed there. It's also mentioned as a place of excellence in Isaiah 35:2. So we say, beloved, we're talking about this woman here, this lady here. The description of herself was very self-depreciatory, rather than pointing out her own beauty. It was as if she saw that there was nothing in her beauty that was extraordinary or out of the common. So in verse 2, like a lily among the thorns, so is my love among the daughters. So like a lily. The man that she's in love with, who's King Solomon, by the way, heard this woman, this maiden's almost confident self-description and responded with affirmation. Perhaps she said it with a touch of doubt, and he erased any doubt with his response. Whatever she might feel, he had no doubt about her beauty. To the man, the wonder of his beloved woman is that she is full of beauty. And it says, like a lily among the thorns, so is my love among the daughters. The man, Solomon, added that the maiden was not only beautiful, but that she was also among those who didn't appreciate or match her beauty. The beloved Solomon gave his woman here, his maiden, a precious gift. It's the gift of feeling preferred. In his estimation, she was the flower, and the other girls were just the thorns. So he takes you to verse 3, like an apple tree among the trees of the woods, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down in his shade with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. So, like an apple tree among the trees in the woods, the language of trees and plants continues here. Okay, this book is very poetic. And now this woman is describing her man as being like a large, healthy, life-giving apple tree. A humble wildflower herself, she recognizes that her bridegroom as a noble tree, an ornamental and fruitful tree. It's it's unlikely that Solomon had what we know as an apple tree in mind here. By the apple tree, he would probably be referring, like most Oriental writers, either to the citron, the pomegranate, or the orange. Okay, as far as fruits that we know, and we sense here when you study this text, you'll sense that the couple is busy complimenting each other. It says, "I'm a single wildflower." No, you are a wildflower among thorns. You are like a beautiful apple tree, and so on and so on. And it says, "I sat down in his shade with great delight." So this woman found a great sense of security and peace under the protective covering of Solomon. She felt sheltered and shaded. She was no longer at the mercy of others. She is now under his care. Her feeling of security is directly connected to the openly proclaimed preference of her in the previous verse that we read. She's not at the mercy of a man who might choose another woman at the slightest whim. She can feel secure in the love of her man who genuinely prefers her. Whereas before she came to him, she worked long hours in the sun. That was, remember that in chapter 1, verse 6. Now she rests under the protective shade that he brings. And although formerly she was exhausted by her work and could not properly care for herself, now she finds time for refreshment with him. And it says, "Sweet to my taste." Taste is more, a better word there would be palate, like your palate, okay? Which often includes the lips, teeth, and the whole mouth. The Hebrew word means for discipline and training, and those two words are derived from the same root word. The first step in teaching a child is the anointing of his lips with honey so that learning is identified with sweetness. And this lady, she muses over her love relationship with her man. And in this section, this woman, the maiden, either in a dream or maybe a daydream, thinks about her beloved and the love that they have shared and will share. The dialogue seems to be completely belonging to her in this particular section. Then you come to verses 4 through 7, and she starts thinking about the provision and the intimacy she's found. It says, "He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love, sustained me with cakes of raisins, refreshed me with apples, for I am lovesick. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases." Let's unpack that. There's a lot there when you unpack it, okay? It says, "He brought me to the banqueting house," like a banquet. So she's dreamingly, if you will, thinking of her man, of her soon-to-be husband, bringing her to a special place, this banqueting house, which is more literally a house of wine, either in the sense of storage or production. It seems to be a secluded, outdoorsy kind of place where she and her beloved can be together and eventually be intimate. Literally the house of wine. The ancients preserved their wine. It wasn't in barrels, in dark cellars, or underground as we do, but in large pictures that ranged against the wall in some upper part of the house, the place where they kept their most precious effects. It says, "His banner over me was love." So taken very literally here, this is a strange statement taken more poetically, she seems to be rejoicing that her beloved had publicly proclaimed his love for her. And it's as if he had set up a banner or a flag, if you will, to say this to everyone. So she's proclaiming that the love which the king has for her is evident to everyone. He does not say one thing to her in private and contradict that in public. He's not ashamed of his love for her, so he's glad for everyone to see it. His banner over me was love suggests that the hoisting up of this banner by her focuses the attention on love. It's a love relationship's what's going on here. And it says, sustain me with cakes of raisins, refresh me with apples. She thought of enjoying her food with her beloved man in an outdoor setting here. It's some sort of outdoor rendezvous. Some commentators, some scholars associate these foods with pagan fertility or an aphrodisiac, but that really seems unwarranted here. It says, I am lovesick. She described a familiar feeling to many people who have known the thrill of love. She feels physically weak and perhaps even somewhat disoriented because of the strength of the attraction and the infatuation that she has towards her beloved. And, you know, the phrases attraction and attachment, attraction and attachment. This is key here. I don't know. I locked in on this earlier today when I was going through my notes. This attraction phase is very powerful, and the kind of condition that makes you say, I'm lovesick. Yet the key to a long-term fulfilling relationship is staying with it past the attraction phase into the attachment phase. There are some marriage counselors who devote almost their entire practice trying to help people that they call love junkies, okay? People who are so addicted to this initial phase that they bounce from relationship to relationship in a hurry and without ever really coming into a greater or longer lasting fulfilling relationship. The good news is that as relationship moves into the attachment phase, the attraction phase recycles. And long married couples often experience this sense of falling in love all over again, several times throughout their marriage. This is why it's sometimes or often it's unwise to rush into a relationship when it's still in the I am lovesick phase, okay? This can be this idea here definitely can go and be applied to a man and a woman. There's no doubt about that. But it also can apply with our relationship with God. Stick with love and love sickness, and it is the equivalent of being exhausted with happiness. So think about it like this. This is the experience of the saints of all ages, okay, when they come into a full realization of the Lord's special presence in their life. And the text goes on and says, his left hand is under my head and his right hand embraces me. So this woman imagines herself and her beloved lying together, and her beloved is caressing her with his right hand, perhaps intimately. And it says, embraces me. The word is not frequent. That word is not frequent in the Old Testament. It's used both of a friendly greeting and of a physical, intimate union. The position of the left hand under her head suggests that the two are laying down, and that with the right hand he's enfolding and caressing her, and enraptured in love here, if you will. She invited Solomon to enjoy her physically. The language that she used here appears again in chapter 4, verse 6, and in chapter 8, verse 14, in context that definitely refer to physical intimacy. So since this woman describes a dream or a daydream, this describes her desire, not an action. Okay. The Revised Standard Version, or the RSV of this of Song of Solomon chapter 2 verse 6 is probably a little easier to understand. Oh, that his left hand were under my head and that his right hand embraced me. And it goes on to say, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem. This is an exhortation to the daughters of Jerusalem, the other women. Okay, it reminds us of this section in verses 4 through 17 is to be understood as a dream or a daydream by this woman. We're not to imagine the couple together in intimacy described in previous lines, like his right hand embraces me, with the daughters of Jerusalem standing around taking note, if you can understand that. I got to say things a certain way, or not TikTok, Facebook will be done. But in her dreamlike state here, this woman, this maiden, speaks to these imagined onlooking daughters of Jerusalem, the other women, and she pleads with them, I charge you. So vowing, or perhaps swearing, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, like a deer, a doe. So the poetic phrasing here surely sounds more natural and meaningful to the first readers of the Song of Solomon than it does to us. Okay? I would definitely agree to that. It says, do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases. There are two meanings to this phrase here in general. It could be, don't interrupt the sweet dream of love that she's enjoying, drawing her back into the reality of life. Or it could be, don't start the process of love exchange until the opportunity and the appropriate occasion is there, is present. Don't start something unless we can finish it. It's probably a common way to say that. This idea is plain, okay? It really is, and it's powerful. In terms of relationships, it means let our love progress and grow until it is matured and fruitful, making a genuinely pleasing relationship. In other words, don't let us go too fast. In terms of passion, it means let our love making continue without interruption until we're both fulfilled. Don't let us start until we can go all the way. That brings us to verses 8 through 14, and this young woman happily thinks over a visit from her beloved. It says, the voice of my beloved, behold, he comes, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Behold, he stands behind our wall. He is looking through the windows, gazing through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with tender grapes give a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. So the voice of the beloved. Here, this woman has moved to another scene in her dream or her daydream. Before she imagined herself and her man at an outdoor rendezvous, and now she imagines a visit from her beloved man, beginning with the idea that she is awakened or alerted by the sound of his voice. It says, behold, he comes leaping upon the mountains. She imagined her beloved bounding to come meet her, full of energy and excitement, as if he were a gazelle or a young stag. It says, behold, he stands behind our wall. He is looking through the windows. You notice the word our, O-U-R there. She's already associating things that belong to them. This young woman imagines her beloved peering through the windows to see if his young woman was at home, or his woman was at home. He's first seen behind the wall and then in the court and lastly into the window of the bride's chamber. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. This maiden thought of her beloved inviting her out to enjoy the glory of spring, and with the phrase the rain over and gone and beautiful flowers and birds singing. This is the season of spring, right? And it reflects the experience of young lovers. Everything is fresh. New life flows through the world. Happiness and color start to triumph over winter's boring gray. Whenever any couple falls in love, it's spring. It's springtime for them. And the voice of the turtle dove, that phrase, this species is what this is talking about here is primarily a migratory spring summer resident of the land of Palestine. And you can look at Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 7. You'll see this again. And it's a distinctive cooing call, which is one of the signs of spring there. It says, the fig tree puts forth her green figs. The fig tree in Judea bears double crops, okay? The first, which is ripe in the spring, but the tree bears figs all through the year. The fig is the tree that always has ripe or unripe fruit on it, okay? If you ever see a fig tree, it will have fruit. It won't be naked, so to speak. And it says, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. This young woman dreamt of her beloved, insisting that they enjoy the beauty of spring together. It was important for her to know that he really wanted to do this with her and was not doing it reluctantly. It's as if simply willing to make himself miserable if he could to please her. It was not that, okay? It was important for her to know that he really did simply just want to be with her. And it says, oh, my dove, let me see your face. This young woman imagined these sweet, passionate words from her beloved, though it's possible that she expressed them herself towards him. She dreamt that her special man would seek her out, it says, in the secret places of the cliff, and would embrace her as someone lovely and beautiful. And the phrase, my dove, this word here, this is a pet name, okay, for the beloved. It is the common, what the animal is talking about, it's a common rock dove, not a turtle dove. And the dove is a common symbol of love. Okay, it says, let me see your face, or more literally, your appearance. He wants to feast his eyes on the loveliness of her whole person and fill his ears with the pleasing sweetness of her voice. Because it says, for your voice is sweet. This young woman considered how sweet and meaningful the sound of each other's voices were to each other. She imagined that Solomon was longing to hear her voice and remembering how sweet the sound of it was. If you stop and think about it for a minute, the human voice has this amazing ability to communicate and connect. The voice can invite or discourage intimacy without ever having been verbally explicit or even conscious of what it's doing. You know, we use our words to repel and attract, to encourage and to undermine. You know, as animals with smells, so are humans with voices. Just hearing a human voice can give us information about the person's height, their weight, their shape, their sex, their age, their occupation, etc., etc., etc. You know, with all this power wrapped up in a voice, it's no wonder that this young woman imagined her beloved man saying to her, your voice is sweet. That brings us to verse 15. Catch us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. This is deep, so pay attention. Catch us the foxes. It's a little difficult to understand who says these words and to whom they're said. Is this the woman saying it to him or vice versa? The translation of the New King James attributes them to the woman. It attributes them to the woman's brothers. Okay, many others think that these words come from this woman herself and are spoken to her beloved. The plural nature of the statement is clear. Okay, the idea that the foxes will be caught together with another person, the brothers or the beloved, and not by one person working alone. It says the little foxes that spoil the vines. Clearly, this young woman speaks poetically here, using the little foxes as emblems of things that would damage the love relationship that she shares with this man. The idea is that the relationship is like a fruitful vineyard, and the little foxes will damage the vineyard unless they are stopped and caught. So think about this for a minute. There are several little foxes for couples, okay? Uncontrolled desire that drives a wedge of guilt and mistrust between the couple, mistrust or jealousy that strains out and breaks the bonds of love, selfishness, pride that refuses to acknowledge when you're wrong, an unforgiving attitude that won't accept an apology. You know, it's helpful to remember the wording of the verse, catch us the foxes. The job of catching foxes is teamwork, okay? One partner in the relationship can't expect the other one to do it all. The thought of the little foxes that may ruin our that could ruin our relationship with Jesus, you know, an enemy starts off small, and I'm speaking of spiritual things now. But the mischief that gets done is really big, okay? And there are a lot of little foxes, okay, that can trip up a couple. Little compromises with the world, disobedience to the still small voice of the little things, you know, little indulgences of the flesh, to neglect our duties to one another, etc., etc. It says, for our vines have tender grapes. This woman's idea is that their relationship is both especially precious, tender grapes are the best, and vulnerable, needing protection, tender grapes that need to be guarded. The appeal here is made to outsiders to prevent the foxes, those foxes that could destroy the purity of their love, from defiling their vineyards. So they pleaded for protection for the love that blossoms between them so that nothing would spoil it. And when you get to verses 16 and 17, she thinks about her beloved here. The beloved is mine and I am his. He feeds his flock among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag upon the mountains of Bether. So to unpack that, the beloved is mine and I am his. This young woman concludes this dreamy section, so to speak, confident in the bond that joins her to this man. He belongs to her and she belongs to him. In this sense, they are one. Okay, the two are joined together as one. They're joined together with mutual bonds of affection, and they're not one partner clinging to another who is more reluctant. It's also a statement of exclusivity and preference. They're not saying my beloved is mine and I belong to him and a few other guys, nor am I my beloved's and he is mine and he belongs to 999 other women. That is not what it's saying. And a lot of people think that the key to love is finding the perfect person. And it's more of a matter of finding the person who belongs to you and you belong to them. You don't look at the other person as a status symbol who will raise your prestige or the perception other people have of you. You look at that one as your counterpart, the one who completes you, the one that you can joyfully affirm you belong to. In short, this is what I would tell you: find your equal, okay? And the spiritual side of this, ways that we belong to Jesus, just think about this for a minute. I am his by the gift of his Father. I am his by purchase, paid for with his own life. I'm his by conquest. He fought and he won me. I'm his by surrender because I gave myself to him. It's certain to me. It seems a great thing to call Jesus mine. To think that he would, the creator of all things, would be mine, and all that he is, and all that he has, and all that he does, and all that he's ever been or ever will be, is mine, because I am in him and he is in me. Same with you. So when a wife takes a husband to be hers, he becomes all hers. And she reckons that she has no divided possessions in him. And it's certainly, with their hearts, okay? It says he feeds his flock among the lilies. Lips, like lips, are called lilies in Solomon chapter 5, verse 13. And this young woman probably dreamt of being smothered by kisses all through the night until the day breaks. She's ready for him to graze on her lips as sheep browse in the grass. Perhaps this is to be related to the opening wish of this young lady. Turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag. This young woman dreamt of her man being full of energy and vitality, like a strong gazelle. Okay, the mountains of Bether they're hard to identify. The verbal root occurs twice in Genesis, where the meaning is obviously to divide an animal in a sacrificial ritual. So the Jerusalem Bible, there's lots of kinds of Bibles, right? Translates this as mountains of the covenant. And the spouse speaks of mountains dividing her from her husband. She means that the difficulties were great. And that brings us to the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3, you see a troubled night and then a glorious wedding procession. But to summarize what we've just gone through here, I can't discern if she's had a dream, a vision, or is just daydreaming. She's so in love that she's just daydreaming about what it's going to be like when they're finally joined together as one. But, I will tell you, if you just spend a little time in this book, number one, I'll tell you, it's poetic, okay? But it's a love story. It's definitely a love story between a man and a woman. And if you will take the time to unpack it, it's some of the best marriage counseling that I've ever read or ever seen. How do you treat each other? How do you look at each other? And, that's good stuff. Anything you want to find out about, you can find out in the Bible if you're willing to dig a little bit, And I'll be honest with you, this is one of those books I have read before, but I never studied it until Polly on here asked, could we do a study on this book? And I'm like, I've already told y'all I'll do them. I'm like, sure. But I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting everything that I found so far. And I mean that in a good way, in a good sense. So this is a great book. This would be one of those books, if you have somebody, that is talking about getting married, this book would be a good one to sit down and go through with them. Because you should, you get that, I don't know what you call it, what the right words are, but you meet somebody and you start spending time with them and the feelings start to increase, and and you're in this total attraction phase. And a lot of people don't ever stop and think, and I'll be the first to tell you, I never really thought about it as deeply as I do now. But when you stand up there and you say for better or worse, you don't know what worse may look like. So when you say those words, you made an oath to another person in the presence of God. My strong suggestion is that you stand by those words. And again, this is very poetic, so it's beautiful language. I was thinking today, I woke up in Greensboro, North Carolina this morning and came home today, and I was thinking about this study coming on tonight, and I was thinking about some of the past studies, and I was thinking like, wow, we went through Daniel and Revelation is it lays heavy on me, and this has been real light, and that's a for me that's a good thing. I hope it's a good thing for you, and I hope that all of you are learning something from it, learning a little more about your Bible. There's all kinds of things in there, and they're all useful. Bible, Bible, basic instructions before leaving Earth, right? Or you could say push, pray until something happens. But I hope that you're enjoying this study in the book of the Song of Solomon.